Hello, the PSN community. I'm Asif, the community manager of PSN, and today I am joined by my good friend, Kris Sparrow from Ideal Property Group. Welcome, Kris. It's great to have you. How are you on this fine day?
Fabulous, thank you, Asif. I must say that you do suit this role really, really well. It definitely suits your personality for sure. Yeah, I'm great, thank you, Asif. Yeah, thank you for having me today.
Amazing. Would you like to tell our lovely viewers what exactly you do?
Well, I am multifaceted in some regard. I started off life doing HMO rent to rent back in 2009. So I manage a fairly sizey portfolio of HMOs, both student and professional. In 2017, I diversified into SA management, just because that was a kind of growing and lucrative part of the market. And then just over a year ago, bought a Pass the Keys franchise to sort of aid in us growing that portfolio further. And I also developed for both of those two markets primarily, and do some other things development commercial wise also.
So a lot of experience and a lot of years behind you as well. But how did you actually get into it all?
Well, I started off prior to setting up on my own. I was working for Reeds Range. I joined the graduate management program at Reeds Range, despite not being a graduate. I managed to get myself on there, and went through the training. It was kind of excelling really amongst my peers there. And then the market crash happened, 2008, 2009, and they were kind of shutting down branches left, right, and centre. And I kind of voiced my concerns to the directors there, and they said, "Don't worry, we'll move you into the lettings arena." So I was positioned at the letting centre, and I was there doing business development just to bring on more units throughout the region. So I'd go to different branches and assist them in bringing on new lettings units, which was quite simple at the time, really, because obviously nothing was selling. So stuff went on to rent. I approached Reeds Range to sort of start working within HMO because I saw that was a big part of the market in South Manchester, and obviously a big organisation, lots of red tape, and I decided that as they weren't going to pursue it, that I wanted to pursue it on my own, and that's what led me to rent to rent. Rent to rent wasn't really a thing then. It's a term that's been coined since by the internet gurus of the day, but I'd say certainly in Manchester I was probably the first person to do rent to rent as a strategy for HMO.
Brilliant. So what would you say your biggest win has been so far?
My biggest win, gosh, I suppose that our response to COVID kind of brought me back into the frame. Up until that point, I tried to sort of extract myself out of the business, so it was run by the team, by my staff, and I was concentrating on being a business owner and working on the business, not in the business, to use the cliche term, and also diversify into other markets. But that really brought me back in touch with the tenants. We did a lot of kind of mental health type strategies and work to ensure that people in our houses were well looked after during that period. And it kind of just brought me back to the kind of early days of Ideal House Share, when I was 25 years old and I was organising pub club, we called it, every Thursday, different pub in Didsbury, and I was kind of at the forefront of that. It kind of got lost as the years went on, but I suppose our response to COVID in terms of the HMO business definitely was a really nice thing to do. We obviously won awards for it as well. We won the Manchester Business Award for the lockdown business of the year because of our response to COVID. So I'd say that arguably is one of the biggest wins. Obviously paying for it now with all the debt that was accrued during that period, and having that's kind of come to fruition now. But I suppose you just have to roll with the punches, don't you, Asif?
Absolutely. Great story. And obviously property can be very difficult, but what would you say your biggest learning has been so far?
Well, I nearly went bust in the earlier days, probably about 5 years in, because I was offered an opportunity to go over to Wakefield, which is, you know, the sort of poor relation of Leeds, really, just on the outskirts of Leeds, and I won a contract there to house a load of students, and there was about 50 of these students to house in the end. The number swelled as time went on, but I was, I can sort out houses for them, and I ended up taking on a couple of hotels. I ended up taking on, a good few buildings there, but because we were doing an element of refurbishment work, I delivered only about 60% of the project on time, and the rest of it was late, and was probably rushed and perhaps a bit substandard. So I had kids really arriving with their parents, and me being the villain of the piece, basically, which made me realise that you can't just accept and agree to everything, and don't overextend yourself too much, especially when you're operating away from your base and resources and all of your infrastructure. So I suppose that was a big learning curve, and it's kind of made me more focused around my geographical area, or at least not until I have infrastructure in place elsewhere, trusted partners, not to go stray too far away.
And a great tip for our viewers as well, to stay at the patch at the beginning for sure as well. So I'm guessing that was in the early days of your career.
Yeah, it was probably about maybe 4 or 5 years into about that. Yeah, about 2013 that was. But it's one of those, isn't it? You just have to learn from these things, and you're allowed to make mistakes when you're younger. It's just learning from them and making sure they're not repeated, I guess.
Agreed. So if you could go back to being 16 years old, what would you tell yourself?
I would say that it's, an absolute myth that you need to be wealthy before you start a property portfolio. You can build your credibility through your actions. I mean, I'm kind of living proof of that, because I didn't start my own investment portfolio till 2021. It was after the COVID catastrophe that I realised there's a fragility in this, and I need to own my own assets. So I had 30k in the bank, and I used other people's money. I used my experience and to get off-market deals. I used my contacts to do the work at a cost-effective price. And the first property project that I did was a 2 to 3 bed SA conversion, and it ended up being a no money down deal, which we ended up making money on once we refinanced. And then once you've done that once, and you kind of look at it and go, holy smokes, I've basically got a house for free here. And by the way, it cash flows at, I think the NP on that one is over £1,000 a month. So once you do that once, it's very seductive, and you want to do that again and again and again, and just rinse and repeat that. And I think a lot of young men in particular get too engrossed in the idea of status and in the idea of earning money immediately. Whereas if you have a level of patience where you can say, oh no, I'm going to build up my experience, I'm going to build up my knowledge, I'm going to build up my credibility, and then we can make the money, and we can do these kind of deals, and we'll make exponentially more money than just trading our time for money, if we can get lucrative investments and have the knowledge and understanding of the way that that particular model there works, and all of the sort of taxation benefits. Surrounding yourself with smart people also that are doing what you want to do. I mean, there's lots of different education programs out there. I personally did one. I won't mention the name, but I personally did one that was based over in Yorkshire, and just being sat around a table with like-minded people, you go into the networking events, putting your face out there, you know, whether it's, you know, there's obviously lots of them in Manchester and all over the country, but, you know, being in a room with those people and being willing to really listen and learn from other people's experiences, I think that's critical. And I think that's a great level of education for anyone.
I completely agree. And you've touched on it as well there about your first project.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell our viewers a little bit more about that? Because from what I can hear, it was a stomper of a deal, and the way that it came about as well was quite unheard of as well.
Right. Well, the deal came to me via, I mean, I have a portfolio of HMOs. Yeah, so we have different contractors, and I have a gardener in particular. And when properties fall into probate or they fall into a level of disrepair, that have been neglected, the first person, or one of the first people that actually gets called, is a gardener. And he came to me and said, "Look, Kris, I've just been and done this job at this house. The guy's desperate to sell the property. He's had some issue with the tenant, and it's effectively a derelict building. There's been a fire in there and all sorts of nonsense, all boarded up by the council a lot. And it was in Withington, which is just on the kind of periphery of Didsbury, which is where I operate, and which is kind of the most sought after suburb in the M postcodes in Manchester anyway. So it's just peripheral to that. And he came to me with this property. I met the guy there and we did an off market deal, 152,000. It was a back to brick job, but I've got lads that work for me and my maintenance crew. You know, I like getting my hands dirty myself. It's a great change for me to get out of the office and get stuck in, and I still do that to this day. So I was front and center of that one, and we did the job for about 30k. So it stood us, you know, once all was said and done, around about 185k. Now it revalued at 270. So once we, obviously you do the maths, we got 75% back off that from Shorebrook Bank, and we turned a profit on it, and that went into the next deal. But you know, a three bed SA there, you know, we're pushing sort of 2.5-3 grand a month on it every month. And the mortgage on it's only 750 quid. So it does well, you know, it does really well. And like I said before, once you see it for real, because, you know, you can be told time and time again by people on, you know, your learning platforms, or, you know, you see Instagram videos of people talking about buy, renovate, refinance. But when you do it yourself, you just think, oh my God. Why is this taking me so long to do this? Why is this? Because it's effectively just playing the market, isn't it? Manipulating the market. I mean, I did that one with a bridging loan, and I borrowed money off my mother, who lent me 25k to do it, and I had 30 in the bank from inheritance after my father passed away in 17. And you know, I scraped together a little bit more and got it done. But then as soon as you do one, your confidence just goes through the roof, and you know, you start posting that stuff on social media. You start sticking that on Facebook and Instagram. I've done this. These are the numbers. All of a sudden, people are phoning you, and they're wanting you to do the same with their money, basically, which is what I've done on many occasions since.
Incredible. And also, there was no stamp duty as well, was there, on there as well, or minimal stamp duty?
Well, because it was a derelict building, it was uninhabitable. There was structural, you know that was what we put forward to HMRC, and that was accepted. So they view it as being commercial. So I think it was the first 150,000 is free, and then we paid stamp duty on the £2,000 because it was 152 purchase. So it was like 40 quid, you know. And that's such a barrier for entry, isn't it, for people? Because it's
people, yeah.
Because I suppose if you're buying, depending where you're operating, and again, this having not been on the education programs or having not been to the networking events, I wouldn't have known about that. I wouldn't have known about capital allowances. I never heard about capital allowances until I started doing property education, and you know, now I have them just stacked up and you know, I won't pay tax on these. on these developments for a good old while, because I've got legitimate capital allowance claims associated to my file at HMRC.
Amazing. Right, that was brilliant. One of the things that I like to do also is play a little game with our Feature Friday guest members, and I call it this or that. So I'll give you two options. So option one might be like apple, option two might be banana, and you have to quickly choose which one you prefer.
Right.
So the first one, coffee or tea?
Oh, it's definitely coffee.
Okay. Chinese food or Indian food?
I might have to upset you here, Asif, and say Chinese.
Not a problem. Night out or night in?
Ooh, well, bloody hell. I suppose by default, being 40 years old with two kids, I'm going to have to say it's now night in. It was always night out, not so much anymore.
Brilliant. And success or happiness?
Well, success drives happiness, in my opinion, and I think that, you know, it's being happy is great. You know, it is, but I think you can make yourself happy through successes. Success doesn't just normally doesn't solely circulate around your finances, and so, you know, success circulates around how much time you have to spend with your family, how much you know, influence can you have on your children, and how can you shape them and ready them for the world. And that's really will be my greatest success, and we're on our way to achieving that. So I think that I'd choose success, but the kind of caveat to that is that if to be successful, you have to drive your own happiness anyway.
It's a great way to think about it. Nobody's mentioned it like that, but that is a very interesting point. Right, the last one. This one's going to be your hardest one.
Oh, go on then.
You ready?
Yeah.
Manchester City or Liverpool FC?
Well, I'm a Mancunian, so it would be Manchester City, despite the fact that I'm a Red and I'll be at the derby this weekend. But yeah, I'm not one of those people that hate the noisy neighbours, although they're not so much noisy neighbours anymore, are they?
Yeah, not at all. So what do you think's going to happen this weekend then? Who do you think's going to win?
Oh, the form goes out the window, doesn't it, in a derby?
Yeah.
Like, you would say that they should clobber us based upon everything that's happened, but you never know.
You never know. And Maguire's back, isn't he? He's on form. He might score a header.
Well, we'll see. We'll see. I won't say much more because we might get done 5-0 at home again. 6 that time.
Brilliant. So, Kris, is there anything else you'd like to add for our viewers?
I don't know. Yeah, I guess so. What else would I say? Yeah, if anyone's interested in you know, either SA conversions or luxury HMO development, or even you know, diversifying their portfolio into sort of areas of the commercial market, then if they want to get in touch with me for any advice, I'd be always happy to have a conversation about any of those things, or if or even lettings and management in those niches, especially around South Manchester and Cheshire East. But yeah, more than anything, I just always look to connect with people. I'm not one of those people that go to networking events and then, you know, say hello and shake hands and then leave and I'm never heard from again. I'm not very active on the WhatsApp groups, I must admit, because my phone just never stops. But I always like to meet with people face to face and try and understand a bit more about them and what it is they want to achieve. And if I can help with any of it, then it's even better.
Perfect. And a great way to end it all as well. Well, viewers, I hope you've enjoyed today's episode of Feature Friday. Until next time, keep being amazing and stay safe. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.